Hello, everyone. Darcinovia once again, and I had some time to watch another one of the Sam Raimi films. This video, we're reviewing Spider-Man 2, which is arguably considered by many fans of the Spider-Man franchise the best Spider-Man movie ever made. Does it live up to that, in my opinion? Well, I've watched it. I had some chance to look at it. After seeing it for so many years, I haven't seen it. I'm surprised how well it's held up, to be honest. Spider-Man 2, honestly. And I could actually see at some points of how it's considered the best movie of the entire Spider-Man franchise. That goes by including the reboot and Homecoming. It's just the story was the best of the movies. It dealt with, Peter Parker's own struggles to, for his personal life and being Spider-Man. And I did feel like this actually dealt with the conflicts rather well. And did it a lot better than Andrew Garfield. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm just hating on the Andrew Garfield movies. I don't hate them. But I felt like Andrew Garfield's reasoning, his Spider-Man, for stop being Spider-Man for 6 months because of the death of his girlfriend, I thought was a better reason than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. But the point is, his reasoning was only for a few minutes. You didn't have a whole movie dealing with a conflict like that. Spider-Man 2 dealt with the conflicts throughout the entire movie of him not wanting to really be Spider-Man because of his love for Mary Jane. I felt like I know that film, they weren't expecting a sequel, so they didn't want any loose ends. So that's why they resolved it quickly rather than resolve it in the next film. Spider-Man 2 dealt with the conflict throughout the entire movie. And also, Doc Octopus was a pretty cool villain. Dr. Octavius is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains. And to see him on the big screen was amazing at the time. I was actually hyped when I saw Dr. Octavius. To actually see him on the big screen. The actor they picked for him was amazing. That's one thing that Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, they got right, at least in the first two. They chose the right actors to play the characters. They actually look like they could come out of a comic. And Spider-Man 2, I do feel like it does deserve the praise that it gets because it also helped the Renaissance further. Because not too long after this movie came out, you had X-Men 2. X-Men United. And, of course, in the same year, you would have, Fantastic Four, or was it in 2005? I don't fucking know. Anyway, you would have more Marvel movies. I feel like at this point, this is when Marvel was killing it. You had movies left and right. Even if they weren't all good, Spider-Man 2 stood out amongst them. And it's one of the best sequels to a comic book movie you could ever think of. Do I like it as much as the first one? No. I think the first one's a better movie, in my opinion. The first one I always felt was the most enjoyable for me. Spider-Man 2 is pretty good, though. And again, after not seeing it for so many years and looking at it from the mindset of a comic book fan, not kind of a casual, I could truly appreciate this movie for what it's done. And I don't understand the hate that it gets from the Andrewites. I mean, I'm sorry, but I said this in my Spider-Man 1 review, but I'll say it again. The problem with Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man films, the villains suck. There's nothing to them. They're arguably more cartoony than Sam Raimi's Spider-Man villains. I mean, those villains actually felt like actual characters. there really wasn't much of a character to Dr. Connors and Amazing Spider-Man or Electrode. And the problem with this is the better sequel too than Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man 1 I consider a good movie in my opinion, despite some of its flaws, but I felt like the first two Sam Raimi movies succeed where those two movies fail because they had one villain that was actually interesting, that actually felt threatening. Green Goblin and Dr. Octavius, which are some of the best villains in Spider-Man. It's unfortunate they wouldn't get Venom right in the next movie, but I felt like this movie, again, a thing that most sequels do not do. I believe this movie can be watched even if you've never seen the first one. Because I felt like this movie can stand on its own. Sure, it has some stupid moments like Spider-Man 1, but I think there's a lot more good I could say than bad. It's unfortunate that these movies kind of get hate on by the Andrewites, but I just felt like Andrew Garfield handled the conflicts of Peter Parker being Spider-Man and not want to be Spider-Man better than Andrew Garfield did. But I wouldn't blame Andrew Garfield for this. I would just blame the shitty script that's given to him. He's not really given that good of a script to work around. And again, the action scenes were well done. And I felt like, when I watched this movie, again, after so many years, I watched the 2.1 edition. I don't know what the fuck the difference between this and the theatrical version, really. I felt satisfied. I didn't feel cheated seeing this movie like I did many other films. I didn't feel like empty after watching this movie. I saw this movie just like the first one around opening week or opening day. I don't know. It's been so long. Spider-Man 2, I do feel like, does deserve to be put on some of the best comic book movies of all time. Because I felt like it deserves that. It's not only a good comic book movie, I think it's a good movie in general. And I keep hearing Andrewites just claim that this and the entire trilogy feels campy, which it doesn't feel that way. Oh, so frustrating. I don't think people really know what campy really means. But, yeah. And again, I know one of the problems is Kristen Dunst's Mary Jane. I still believe they could have picked a better actress, but what can you do? She doesn't do too bad with the material that's given to her. She's a far better actress than Zendaya. I don't care. I'll say that until the day I die. And I felt like every character had a purpose. I forgot to even talk about the actor who plays Jameson. He's great. I mean, seriously, even those who did not like Sam Raimi's films, you cannot deny that he was a great casting choice. He was an asshole just like he is in the comics and various other TV shows. He was great. I'm so bad with names. I'm so sorry. So I can't name everyone, but I felt like, the casting was great. Now, it's unfortunate that this did set up some stuff that could happen in future films, which never happened, or one of them, which we'll talk about next time. But this film was good. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't think it's as good as the first movie, but in my opinion, I don't expect it to be as good as the first one. The first one's basically the Superman 78 of comic book movies, or at least Marvel. And it felt like with Spider-Man 2, it felt like it was unstoppable. And it would only be 4 years later that we would get the Marvel MCU, which is amazing in itself when I really think about it. Spider-Man 2 see this movie because I think, as a Spider-Man fan, I think you should see the original trilogy of Spider-Man movies so you can see what the deal is about. And you may be able to get a perspective on why some people don't like the Mark Webb Spider-Man movies. So, in conclusion, if you want to get these movies, the set, you could get these relatively cheap. They're not that expensive. I got this set for $12. But anyway, I believe I'm done. Spider-Man 2, I think, is a good movie. No, not as good as the first one. I still consider it a good movie. And next time we talk about Spider-Man, oh god, oh shit, we'll have to talk about that piece of shit, won't we? Spider-Man 3. Oh god, I'm dreading that movie. Oh god. Expect a long rant on that film because I have a lot to say about that piece of shit. Darcenovia. Over and out, everyone. Have a nice day. And good night if you're watching this at nighttime. Later.